Hey story fans. Welcome to Blow Up, where we unpack the wildest stories Reddit has to offer. Today we've got 6 insane tales, entitled Karens, drunk sisters, petty bosses and law-breaking pals all getting what's coming. From parking lot showdowns to car stink revenge, it's a roller coaster of chaos and karma. Buckle up, hit that like button and let's blow this thing wide open. So, this happened yesterday and I'm still trying to process the sheer audacity of it all while also smug at the result. It's Ramadan and like most malls here, they open at 3 p.m. on weekdays and stay open until 3 a.m. Plenty of time for everyone to shop, eat, and do whatever they need. But apparently that wasn't good enough for one ultra-entitled Karen who thought she was above the rules. I got to the mall around 2:30 p.m. to grab a good parking spot before the pre-iftar rush to catch some shopping for my wife. A few other cars had already started forming a queue outside the parking entrance, all of us patiently waiting for security to open the gates at 3 p.m. sharp. Everything was normal, until Her Royal Highness Karen rolled up in her big black pickup truck with 2 private security guards in tow. She pulls up right next to the security gate, completely ignoring the queue, rolls down her window and tells the mall security, "Open the gate now. I have things to do." The guard politely tells her that the mall isn't open yet and that she needs to queue like everyone else. But of course Karen doesn't take no for an answer. "Karen, do you know who I am? Do you see my guards? I don't wait in lines." She then literally waves at her guards, who step out with their guns like they're about to escort her to the throne room, and they start demanding that security let her through. The mall security guys, to their credit, stood their ground. "Security, ma'am, no one enters before 3 p.m. Please queue like everyone else." Karen scoffs and pulls out her phone to record, demanding to speak to the manager. At this point, the rest of us in line are just watching in anger and disbelief, further amplified due to lack of energy and sheer heat. A few minutes later, the mall manager shows up, looking visibly annoyed. He walks right up to Karen's car and in the most CEO voice imaginable tells her, "Ma'am, your guards do not dictate mall policy. If you want to enter, you wait like everyone else. Now take your guards and move to the back of the line." "Karen, this is unacceptable. I'll be calling my husband and reporting you." "Manager, you can report me after you move your car." Absolute legend. The best part? Karen actually shut up and sulked off to the back of the line, her guards looking completely useless. Moral of the story? Even if you bring your own goons, mall security still doesn't care. Happy Ramadan, everyone. Don't be like Karen. Have respect for people. This Karen thought she was starring in her own action movie, guards, guns and a pickup truck? Please. She got humbled faster than you can say, back of the line. That manager's CEO energy was pure gold. Imagine him strutting up like, "I don't care if you've got the Avengers, lady, wait your turn." And those guards? Standing there like discount bouncers at a kid's party. Ramadan karma hit her hard and I'm living for it. How would you handle a Karen like this? Yell back or just watch her flop? Ever seen someone pull a stunt this wild in a line? Drop your stories below. Did you clap back or laugh it off? That Karen got parked in her place, but our next story's a family feud gone off the rails. A sister, some snow and a drunken crash. Let's slide into it. My sister and I used to be neighbors, so to speak. I live in a sub-building rented from my parents, and she lived in a fifth-wheel trailer with her kids next to it. On Christmas Day about 3 years ago, she and her visiting ex-husband along with their kids were outside having fun in the snow. I went outside to hang out with them, and at a random point my sister suddenly asked me to later take her to meet a friend of hers because they were alone with no family on Christmas. I didn't want to do this because not only did I not know this person, but I know my sister well. If I were to have been her ride, I'd have been stuck waiting there for hours. When she wanted me to do this sort of thing for her back then, it was because she wanted to drink and couldn't have alcohol if she drove herself. It was also snowing and the roads were covered. I didn't want to risk it. My truck is a '98 RWD Ford F-150, and I had no chains for the tires. It's a heavy steel beast that could slip off the road very easily. I tend to call it a brick with wheels. I relayed all of that information to my sister. But she still got angry at me for not agreeing. And she couldn't mentally understand that her FWD car would be better on the snow-covered country roads than my truck. But I couldn't drive her with her car anyway because it was a manual and I drive automatic. She kept acting like my vehicle would do better because it's a truck. I explained that if it were a 4x4 then yes. But it's RWD, which means it's both heavy and got no front power to help keep traction on the road. So it'd slip and slide and likely wouldn't even be able to make it back up the hill. Her car was smaller, lighter, she had chains and traction control. I also have very little experience driving on icy and snowy roads. She basically scoffed and walked away, and I hoped she'd let it go. She didn't. After having fun in the snow, we went over to our parents' house and celebrated Christmas Day. My sister didn't speak of wanting me to drive her to see that guy I don't know while in front of our parents, because she knew they'd tell her to leave me alone. But I got an occasional dirty look from her if we made eye contact. And when our parents weren't in earshot, she'd make a jab at me about how she'd do something like that for me if I needed it, and I should be doing it for her. But I didn't relent. My sister started drinking, probably in the hopes that she could try and guilt me by saying she was too inebriated to drive. But I didn't relent. As she drank more, her glares towards me kept getting nastier. That's what she used to do to get her way from me. She'd act increasingly bitter and treat me like the bad guy till I caved. Not that time. Anything related to vehicle danger, I have a pretty shiny spine about. So I just let her glare at me. By the time the party was almost over, she'd obviously realized her spike gambit didn't work. So she hopped her drunk self into her car and took off, even though she was drunk and shouldn't have been driving. She'd gotten a DUI a couple years prior, so she knew better. She just didn't care. Thankfully her ex took their kids to his house for a few days, so I wasn't worried about my nephews. I told my parents what my sister had tried to make me do, and they were pretty angry about it too and backed me up on my decision to say no. Not only because the roads were treacherous, but because it really wasn't fair to me to keep driving her places just so she could get drunk. If she really had so much pity for this guy to visit him for a couple of hours on Christmas, she could have done it sober. As I said before, I didn't know this guy she wanted to visit. And my sister just wanted an excuse to go drink with a friend. And if I'd taken her, I'd have just been waiting around for her for hours. My sister has no sense of being on someone else's time. Especially when she drank. Time to go meant almost nothing to her. She could almost never stick to a deadline if alcohol was involved. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with her anymore. Later on, I was taking a nap when I was woken up to what sounded like my sister's car alarm. I looked out the window and saw a large truck I didn't recognize leaving her driveway. I went over and knocked on her door to ask what was going on. She was particularly moody, and I doubt she was able to drink for the hours she was away with what I learned later. I asked her whose truck I saw, and she angrily told me it was her lonely friend I didn't take her to see. And he drove home behind her to make sure she didn't crash. I asked if the roads were really that bad and she confirmed they were. I said it was a good thing I didn't try to drive my truck on them then. And she very passive-aggressively said, "Yeah," before spitefully bidding me goodbye for the evening and slamming the door. I learned the next day that my sister had gone off the road and crashed. Messed up her passenger side fender pretty bad. And she had to call the guy she was going to see to come pull her out of the ditch. And then he had to help her get home once she'd calmed down. So she got a fair dose of karma that day. I felt most sorry for her car though. She absolutely destroyed that car in the few years she owned it. That fender was just one of many things to get broken because of her reckless driving. Thankfully my sister doesn't live here anymore. We evicted her toxic self in late 2023, and she's extremely bitter we won't help her anymore. This sister's a walking disaster. Guilt-tripping her brother into a snowy death trap just to booze it up, then crashing her own car? That's Christmas karma with a side of eggnog. I'm cackling at her, "Yeah," tantrum, like girl you proved his point. The brick with wheels truck dodging that mess was the real MVP. Evicting her was the gift that keeps on giving. Cheers to that. How would you deal with a sibling this entitled? Cave or kick him out? Ever had family pull a stunt this dumb? Hit the comments. Did you save the day or watch them crash? Spill it. From snowy sister Rex to a boss who couldn't handle losing talent. Our next story's about a job switch that turned into a petty meltdown. Let's clock in. Ever had a boss flip out over you leveling up? This Redditor's manager lost it when a better gig came calling. Stick around for the tantrum of the year. The quote said wasn't actually spoken but it was implied. Recently, I applied for a job within the same company but at a different building/person. I had informed my boss about the interview and she was delighted because she thought I'd still work with her part-time. Until I mentioned they offered me full-time, 9 to 6. I have worked for my boss for 2 years part-time because I was studying, but decided to drop out of college after a year to focus on earning money than spending more years into getting the degree because I was broke, barely earned enough to move out and was impatient. I'm 25F, felt behind compared to my peers who already had their degrees and places of their own. I graduated high school late, 21. My boss was aware of this, yet did not offer me a full-time position despite having more free time, and only gave me a $1 raise. I was naive enough to think there was no full-time position considering my coworkers don't work full-time either, and she accused it of it being because they have another job. Because I want to earn more pay per month, and with my experience with the company, I thought to apply to other branches to occupy the rest of my week. But when the interview ended, the manager of that branch mentioned the possibility of working full-time after some months working there, and she showed me the hours, which had me shocked. It felt like my potential was being wasted at my current job. A few days later, I informed my boss of the offer because I innocently thought she would be accepting of my possible transfer and help me prepare. Instead, she became angry and stated, "How could I have the audacity to betray her? After all I've done for her, after all these years? She will give that other person a piece of her mind? No way I should consider that position after how hard she worked to train me. I must prioritize her. How dare they offer that to her worker?" Not once had she given me a better offer for me to want to stay. Throughout the time I had worked for her, she belittled me, compared me to others, made me cry in front of everyone, and made me feel guilty over little mistakes. She would also breathe down my neck, instruct me to do something but get angry when I do it. I tend to people please, and despite all this I stayed because I didn't want to be left without a job. But I received an email that I got accepted for the job today, February 20th, 2025, and will have my employment contract soon. I will finally be free. Edit. Thank you to everyone with your kind words, suggestions, and congratulations. Some small updates which will be the last I will edit this post. I will start my new job very soon and sign the contract of employment and officially resign my old job. My boss had made things harder before my last day working there, and even tried getting my co-workers on her side, but they did not entertain what she was saying about me and stayed silent, probably to avoid the same treatment. They wish me the best and are sad to see me go, but they understood the circumstances. Hopefully that will be all. This boss's meltdown was Oscar-worthy. Betray her? Lady, it's a job, not a blood oath. She had 2 years to step up but gave a measly $1 raise, stingier than a Scrooge convention. I'm dying at her worker rant, like she owns this Redditor. Good riddance to that toxic mess. New job, new life, and a big middle finger to the old hag. Freedom tastes sweet. How would you ditch a boss this clingy, ghost or gloat? Ever escaped a job that held you back? Tell me below, did you bounce or burn bridges? I'm all ears. That boss got left in the dust, but our next tale's about a bully who picked the wrong fight and got a beer bottle to the face. Let's pour it out. Think you've met a jerk? This coworker bullied everyone, until her trash-talking backfired with a literal smackdown. Stay tuned for this bar brawl karma. My wife has an entitled coworker/acquaintance. I use the term acquaintance as she does run in our friend circle, but we try to limit or avoid contact with her. We will call her Carrie. Anyways, Carrie is known for bullying co-workers at work. Saying that she can get people fired, she can't, screaming at people and at large just general bad behavior. Her favorite thing to intimidate people with is to tell them to fuck around and find out. This is important for later. So Carrie had a fuck buddy. Nothing serious, just a guy she would bang and kick out the door. Carrie is also notorious for collecting engagement rings. She would begin dating a guy, get a ring from them, get them to pay off some bill for her, then kick them to the curb. Again, I bring this up only as context to her character and to reinforce that the fuck buddy guy meant nothing to her, as she didn't date him nor tried getting a ring from him. She used him then kick him to the curb whenever someone with money showed her attention. She would also frequently talk shit about this guy behind his back. So Carrie was on one of her short-term engagements, so the fuck buddy, let's call him Bill, was currently not someone she was seeing, as the new guy just bought her a $6,000 ring. I'm serious, she collected engagement rings like they were Pokemon, and paid 10 grand to get her roof fixed. So she was happy with this guy and had no interest at all in Bill. Enter Mandy. Mandy is another co-work of my wife and Carrie. I personally don't know her, but from what I've been told is she just got out of a 15-year marriage where she wasn't allowed to do anything and was very controlled. Carrie and Mandy are friends, drinking buddies. Carrie likes to drink a lot, and by like I mean all the time. But nevertheless they were on good terms. So randomly Mandy meets Bill. Mandy doesn't know Bill's history with Carrie, nor knows that G even knows her. They hit it off like really good. And they are getting along so well that they begin dating. And it blossoms into a great relationship. One that's built on respect and love. Carrie finds out. And she loses her fucking mind. Again, she never dated Bill, never wanted to date Bill, she never had any interest in him besides sex. Hell, she currently engaged to a guy. But Mandy took her man. And she let the world know about it. Carrie started by going to their boss daily and asking him, "Why does that little bitch still work here?" She would also loudly exclaim this on the work floor for all to hear. Also, Carrie spent a whole hour yelling and screaming at her for some NG Mandy didn't even do. Carrie would also frequently harass them both when they were out and about in town. She would loudly call her a bitch, slut, cunt and just all the nasty things you can say about someone. She would not only loudly say these things in their proximity, but tell anyone that would listen or not listen, basically anyone around her, how she was wronged by Mandy and Bill. And what she thought about it, and that Mandy is fucking around, so she going to find out. Fast forward 2 months. Mandy and Bill are still together and extremely happy. Carrie is not surprisingly no longer engaged to that guy. Also not surprisingly has already been engaged to another guy and married after a week. It was unfortunately the 2-year anniversary of the passing of a mutual friend of all parties involved. Carrie is using this time to take the week off of work to drink. This is a whole other can of worms. Basically she isn't close to this person who passed as she claims to be. But anyways, once work is over, everyone else goes to the bar to have a drink to celebrate the departed life. So again, once Carrie after 2 full days of drinking see Mandy, she begins to let into her again with all the shaming stuff. Mandy, finally having enough of it, attempts to talk to Carrie in an attempt to reconcile. Carrie is having none of this and keeps calling her names and proceeds to tell her that Mandy is fucking around and is going to find ascertainly ends it with calling her a cunt. Well, I'm guessing something snapped and Mandy straight snapped and threw a beer bottle straight at her, hitting her in the face. Imagine the cop in The Big Lebowski throwing the coffee cup, knocking her on her ass. There is a slight pause and someone I don't know who pipes up. It looks like you were the one that fucked around and found out. Carrie, obviously stunned, gets up and leaves. So the next day she showed up to work with a very obvious black eye. She isn't saying anything to Mandy, but going to everyone else complaining that she was the victim. Not understanding that everyone been watching her bully this poor girl for the last few months. And that kind of it. Nothing else has happened since then, but if it does I'll let you know. Sorry this got long-winded. Carrie's fuck around and find out line came back to bite her, literally. Collecting rings like Pokemon? That's a new level of savage. But Mandy yeeting that beer bottle? Iconic. I'm wheezing at the random you found out. Shout, perfect timing. Carrie's black eye was the cherry on this karma cake. She's out here playing victim while everyone's like, nah, you earned that shiner. How would you handle a Carrie bottle toss or walk away? Ever seen a bully get wrecked this good? Drop your tails below. Did you cheer or throw the next one? Let's hear it. Carrie's face met her match, but our next story's about a car ride gone wrong. A pal tried to break the law and got booted to the curb. Let's roll. Think you can smoke weed in someone's car against their rules? This guy tried, and got a half-mile hike for it. Wait for the stinky payback. Now I'll preface this by saying I don't think I was in the wrong here. And this happened 20+ years ago. Recently the guy involved reached out and it came up again. Before my health went to hell, I worked in a food factory. Now I got transferred for a while to the back shift, 2 till 10 p.m. On our way home, my at the time friend asked if we could stop off on a council estate as a friend had something he was owed. Trying to be a nice guy, I said sure. My alarm bells went off the moment I pulled up. This was the rough end of the estate. He then said to pull into a car parking spot across the road so I didn't attract attention and get carjacked. I was worried, but he said yes, be 2 minutes tops. He goes to the friend and runs over, jumping in the back of my car. Best I can remember the conversation, but paraphrasing here after this time. Thanks OP, I'm sorted now. He started rustling in a bag that he didn't have till he went to the house. I smelt something pretty strongly, didn't know what it was. I had zero drugs knowledge apart from prescription meds I was on. Mate, close that bag, it fucking stinks and I taking mum out tomorrow morning to go shopping. 2 minutes. No mate, now, I don't want the car stinking of this crap. He then lit up. I lost it instantly. I had a rule as this was my first car. No eating or drinking in it while it's moving, no smoking period as I'm a non-smoker. What the fuck, man? No smoking in my car. Chill out? It's just some fucking skunk. That was when I slammed brakes on. Get the fuck out of my car now. But we not at my house. I don't fucking corral. No smoking in my car, that includes fucking weed, you twat. He got out grumbling cause he had a half-mile walk to do. I left him there. Went home and sprayed most a can of fabric freshener all over the interior of my car. It hid the smell for a few days, but it took over a week to finally eliminate the stink. Now I was only a year into driving and the local traffic cops were super assholes that pulled you for the slightest thing. I once dropped someone off at a pub, never got out of my car, a cop saw that and breathalyzed me anyway, so I was uber worried I'd get pulled and they would smell weed. He recently turned up at my house asking for a lift to the next town over, cost that's where my weed dealer lives now and my car's busted. Told him to fuck off and slammed the door. This dude's a walking red flag. Lighting up skunk in a no-smoking car? Ballsy, and dumb as a rock. Slamming the brakes and yeeting him out with chef's kiss perfection. I'm cracking up at the fabric freshener frenzy, like Febreze could hide that stench from nosy cops. And showing up 20 years later for a dealer lift? Bro, take a hint and a hike. How would you kick out a rule breaker, screech to a stop or let it slide? Ever had a friend pull this crap? Tell me below, did you ditch him or deodorize? I'm dying to know. That car's still airing out, but we've got one more. Oh wait, we're at 6. Time to wrap this wild ride up. Let's close it out. That's it for today's blow-up chaos. From Karen's guards to weed walks, these stories were nuts. Love the madness? Smash that like, subscribe and ring the bell. More's coming. Got your own tale of petty revenge? Drop it below, I might feature it next. Thanks for watching, you awesome crew. Catch you in the next one.